Yeah.
We are live with the amazing Elizabeth Ann Cunningham, who is going to talk to us today about erotic blueprints
Hmm.
and unlocking greater sexual desire and erotic compatibility. We're super excited to be having this conversation. Um, but before we jump into all of the good stuff, Elizabeth, I would love if you took a moment to introduce yourself, say a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Great. Awesome. Yeah, I am uh technology is so funny. Okay, I think we're here. We're here, we're live.
Yeah.
I'm here,
Wait a
I'm
minute.
live. Yeah, so who am I? Elizabeth.
We're flustered
uh,
already. Look at this. It was the anticipation.
it's like, no, I don't talk about eroticism on a daily basis. Okay. Yeah, so my name is Elizabeth Ann Cunningham, for those people who don't know me. And I have been working and studying in the field of gender and sexuality and sex since 2008. And I worked in a domestic violence center after college, and determined that I wanted to switch my focus from helping people out of unhealthy or abusive relationships and really teaching people how to have healthy relationships to start off with, so that I can
Mhm.
work my former colleagues out of a job. Um,
Mhm.
and um, Transformational coaching was the modality that I chose because that's something that has really helped me a lot in my own personal journey. And I have been coaching people who are polyamorous since 2017. I have had my business full time. So this is what I do for a living full time since 2020. And I also identify as queer and polyamorous as well.
Yay.
Awesome.
You're
Yay.
doing such awesome work, and our world so needs you in it.
Yeah.
Oh my
So,
gosh. Thank you so much. I feel that way about the two of you.
Oh.
thank you.
So we're super excited about this one
Yeah.
because I don't know if you saw the email that we wrote and said to people or the post that we did, but um differences in our sexuality, our sexual appetite, are have like been part of our story, right? And part of what we've had to find our way through. And I know that this is something that a lot of couples struggle with. Not just being different in terms of drives, which I think that's the most common difference that we hear
Yeah.
about, but also just like differences in desires, differences in kind of what turns them on,
Turn ons. Yeah.
and so the idea of having a map to how we can like increase pleasure and desire and erotic compatibility sounds so alluring. So I would love, like, what is this all about? Tell us, what are
Yeah.
erotic blueprints and how are they going to help couples?
Yeah, for sure. So I kind of want to separate out a couple of things first.
Please.
And Because oftentimes we talk about sex, eroticism, and pleasure, we think that we're kind of talking about the same thing.
Yeah.
Um, and I want to differentiate between, and also relationships as well. Like oftentimes when
Mm,
we talk about relationships, we're like, oh, relationships have sex in them.
sure.
And that's not always necessarily true either. So even
Hmm.
kind of like having relationship be its own category, having sex be its own category, eroticism be its own category, and pleasure be its own category. And they do
Mm,
have, they overlap. It's a Venn diagram, right? But they're all separate things. And I think that's especially important when we talk about queer and polyamorous relationships, because there's a lot of
hmm.
myths around like sex and like, just people like are just like it's over the sex part of it is overly emphasized,
Right.
right? When
Right.
queer and
That's all
polyamorous
polyamorous
people,
people really want, is just to have a
Hmm.
bunch of sex.
Yeah.
obviously, and queer, yeah, and queer people just want to have sex in the streets. That's what June's about, right? Um,
Right. June is
but
Sex in the Street. Mhm.
So yeah. Why do we have to call it like, LGBTQIA plus month? Like, why isn't it just called Sex in the Street month, right?
Uh-huh.
Anyway, but yeah, it's kind of like partialing that out. And then also sexuality is its own category
Yeah.
as well. And
Yes.
I don't think that we'll probably get to sexuality today, which is why I was like, okay, relationship, sex, eroticism, pleasure. And so specifically separating out then sex, eroticism, and pleasure for this. So when I'm talking about sex, what I'm talking about is two people or more have decided, or maybe even one actually, two plus people have decided that this is sex. This activity that we are doing now constitutes as sex. And that can look so different for so many
Yeah.
different people. I think the myth behind that is that like there has to be penetration for sex. There has to be like I don't know if I can say this on Instagram, but a P and a V. There you go. I'll
Yeah.
like let y'all fill in the blank. I don't want to get canceled on Instagram. But like there needs to be a P and a V in order for it to like
Mhm.
constitute as sex, right? Like there's all
Mhm.
these things that we think sex is, but it's not. So I like to have this broader definition of sex is whatever the people who are participating consensually have decided that sex is. And then eroticism is, and I hate when definitions do this, but I don't know how else to say this. But eroticism is like anything that you find erotic, like, and it doesn't necessarily have to do with sex. And also that things that are erotic can be like eroticism is so broad. Like it doesn't even
Mm.
necessarily have to do with pleasure either, like, which is why
Mhm.
pleasure is its own category, right? And then, so something erotic could be the way that you're touching someone. Something erotic could be just things that turn you on. And things that turn you on could be like, oh, really great cup of coffee, an awesome song, an idea can turn you on, like fantasies,
Mhm.
right? Fantasies
Mhm.
are a turn on. You're not actually doing anything. You're just thinking about something. That's
Mhm.
erotic.
Mhm.
And then you have pleasure, and pleasure is just like what feels good. Like that's what pleasure is. Pleasure is what feels good, and specifically what feels good to you. And the other really, really important part about all of this is that it is so unique to each individual. So, like,
Yeah.
there's 9 billion ways on the planet that you could
Yeah.
categorize sex. There's 9 billion ways on the planet that you could categorize eroticism. There's 9 billion ways on the planet that you could categorize what pleasure is. And so,
Mhm.
what we're talking about today is how, if there's 9 billion ways to do this, then how could we ever like find a way to like make everybody happy? And luckily, you're not dealing with all 9 billion people when you're trying to, have sex, or when you're trying to have an erotic experience, or when you're trying to like feel pleasure in some way. You're only dealing with yourself, you're only dealing with your partner, or if you're polyamorous, then you're dealing with like multiple people.
Mhm.
So all of that to set the stage of like, then how do you have erotic relationships with people? And so,
Can I
yeah, I'll
interrupt
pause
just
there.
okay, yeah,
Yeah.
sorry. I don't mean to cut you off, Elizabeth.
No,
But
you're
I
good.
think what you're saying is so important that I really want to consolidate it because
Mhm,
there are like just to say nothing of like the confounding of sex, eroticism, and pleasure, right? Like that's
mhm,
that's that's gold right there. Just the liberation in being able to separate those and attend to them individually for ourselves and our relationship, like that is so huge alone.
Mhm.
But then just like busting right through this myth that there is a way that sex, eroticism, pleasure, relationships, sexuality should be,
Mhm.
right? Like that this is how it's done, this is how it's supposed to be done, this is how it's supposed to be experienced, this is what's supposed to turn you on, this is how we're supposed to be able to come, this is how, like
mhm.
all
Or
of
you're
those.
supposed to come.
Right, or you're supposed to come at all, or if you're in a real relationship, you're supposed to be having sex. I mean, like, you're breaking down all of the shoulds,
Mhm.
in recognizing the truth that there are 9 billion different ways to experience each one of these categories. And so when you free yourself, just that alone, without even getting into erotic blueprints, just the freedom of recognizing that there's no way I'm supposed to be.
Right.
And now I can look at who I am and how I want to be, what actually feels good to me, to my partner, how, the unique way that we come together and become an us.
Mhm.
Like that alone, it's just, I'm so excited about what's possible for people when they get this. It's just this little tiny bit, like,
Yeah,
okay, we're
embrace
done.
it.
So good.
Yeah.
Thank you,
Yeah.
Elizabeth. No, there's more.
You're
I want
welcome.
more from you.
Absolutely. Oh my God. This is why I do this, because I could talk about this day in, day out, constantly, all the time, no matter what. Like,
I
wake
know.
me up at 3 o'clock in the morning and be like, Elizabeth, talk to me about different types of eroticism. And I'll be like, oh my God. Let me tell you about it.
Yes.
But you're so right, Jenny, is that there are, and like one of the things that people often call me and ask me is like, they're like, hey, I have this want or need or desire or fantasy, and I just need someone to tell me that I'm not wrong, that I'm not like, that there's not something wrong with me. And I want every single person listening to be like, to know that there is nothing wrong with you. There is absolutely nothing wrong with you. I promise you there's nothing wrong with you. Like you feel the way that you feel, and we can investigate that, and we can look at that, and we can talk about healthy ways to get that, because there are certainly unhealthy ways to get your needs met, for sure. Right? So but how you're feeling, like there's nothing wrong with how you're feeling or what you're desiring. And so I just want to get that out for everybody too.
Can we just pause, and like anybody watching this video now or in the replay, like just take a moment. I want you to just say to yourself, there is nothing wrong with me. There's nothing wrong with how I feel. There's nothing wrong with what I want. There's nothing wrong with how I show up in my relationship intimately, right? Like just want you to say that out loud so you can hear yourself saying it, because yes.
Oh, takeaway.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Beautiful.
So what are these
Okay.
things called, erotic blueprints?
Yes.
all-
So erotic blueprints were created by Jaya Ma. So you can look up Jaya. She has a website, missjaya.com. You can also look up the eroticblueprints.com. So there's a lot, there's a huge history here behind these things that I won't go into today. And so there's 5 erotic blueprints, and basically what Jaya is a somatic sexologist by practice, and she has seen hundreds and hundreds of clients, and basically these were the patterns that she saw that arose with people's eroticism, and she saw these 5 patterns that arose, and they're kind of similar, and I know that there's things that are problematic about the 5 love languages, but the similarity here is just that just like there's different love languages for ways that we like to receive love, there's different ways that we like to receive or give eroticism as well. And just because you may fall more into one category over the other doesn't mean that's like you're stuck in that category, or it doesn't mean that you don't also fit in the other categories as well. Like, this is very fluid. It's a spectrum. It can also depend on the time of month. If you're someone who menstruates and has a cycle like that, it can also depend on the time of your life as well. So I just want to caveat all of that as well. Like, there's no isness about this, right? So the 5 erotic blueprints are energetic, sensual, sexual, kinky, and shapeshifter. And so with each type of erotic blueprint, you and I have like lectures on, like I have classes on this. I've taught this in like 6-month programs. So like there's so much here. Okay.
We're just scratching the surface, y'all.
We are scratching the surface here. So with each blueprint, there are superpowers and shadows of each one. So again, there's nothing right or wrong about how you feel, but like there are some things where it's just like, okay, you also want to note this about this. So for example, in the energetic blueprint, you're someone who likes energetic touch. And what that might look like is like, when you like hover your hand over a body part, but you can feel that. So it might feel like heat, it might feel like tingling, it might feel like waves. And then maybe you get all the way like close enough to like touch the hair on your skin. And so if that is something that's really pleasurable for you, that's an energetic touch. And then there's sensual touch, and sensual touch is more like massage, like that, like really firm, like hold massage, not the same as grasping, that's kinky, we'll get there. But like that, like sensual, like touch, right? Oh, sorry, I'm gonna back up actually a second and go back to energetic. So energetic, your superpowers are you can probably have an orgasm without genital stimulation, meaning that you can experience orgasms like waves of pleasure throughout your body by different types of touch other than touching your genitals. And other energetic superpowers are being able to like deeply and like spiritually connect during sex as well. Other energetic superpowers are that you really feel you can almost like have like cosmic sex, like think tantra, right? Shadows of the energetic are sometimes when we get into this like very spiritual space, our ego can take over and be like, this is the best way. This is the superior way. Everyone else who does it differently is lesser than. So just notice when you have those kind of like judgy thoughts, and just like, it's a great way to connect and have sex and be erotic, but it's not like the best way. And yeah, so sensual, so that like sensual touch, something that you might feel if you are someone who's more sensual is that you might feel like you can get turned on. The superpower is that you can get turned on by pretty much anything because it's all five senses, right? It's sight, it's touch, it's taste, it's smell, like it's anything. It's like you can have like a great cup of coffee and be like, oh my God, this is so good. Like, just has anybody ever had a better cup of coffee? Like just have like an erotic experience like at a coffee shop by yourself. I'm very sensual. And also superpower of the sensual is that you can also have the ability to have orgasms without genital touch as well, because you just have all these different erogenous like inputs to your system, right? The shadow of the sensual is that like just as easily as you get turned on, you can also be that easily turned off as well. So it's just like the music isn't the right volume, immediate turn off. Like, like someone says the wrong word, it's like immediate turn off. Right. And so that's also like just being aware of that and being able to like know that, okay, I get easily turned off. So like, what do I need to kind of like bring me back to the moment? Right. Then there's sexual touch is, what we would consider more like mainstream, like what you might watch in like porn, where it's like, it's more about genitals, it's more about like, oh, big butts or like sexy boobs and like things like that, like a lot of like nipple play, like things like that, where like the sexual superpowers are that you can have sex at any time. Like you're just like ready to go. You're like 0 to 60, right? Where like sensuals need that like slow romantic build, and like sexual erotic blueprint people are just like, nope, right now, let's do it. I'm here for it. And the shadow of the sexual might be like really impatient, or that you might think that this is the way to have sex. Like, what do you mean there's other ways to have sex? No, this is the way to have sex. What are you talking about? And so while energetics might think that their way is the best way, like sexual blueprint people might think that their way is the only way. So just noticing that and like opening up your horizons a little bit. Kinky is like kinky touch can be like scratch, hit, slap, thud, like things that are a little bit more like taboo, or things that like have more impact, like thinking impact play. Might be like a kinkier touch, but kinky falls into two different categories. And so it's physical and psychological. And so kinky touch, quote unquote, can also be like commands, words, things that create a like that fantasy environment, whatever the kink is that you're playing into. So a kinky touch can also be like creating the scene or like being in a role as well. And that's the turn on. Like it turns me on to like be the princess or be the dom or whatever it is. The shadow side, the superpower of kinky is that the world is your freaking playground. Like you are just a creative, erotic soul. Like you're just like anything I can turn into eroticism. Anything. Give like microphone, I can make that work. Cup, I can make that work. Tissue box, I got this. Like I can do anything with eroticism. Like watch me. And and then kinky shadow is like you are doing things that are more taboo. So a kinky shadow, like if you're someone who's like, I think I'm wrong. I think I'm actually a terrible person. I think there's actually something wrong with me. You might be a kinky person. Like that might be a sign that your desires are like fall into the more like kink category. And then someone put The Mandalorian, this is the way for the sexual. I love that. That's amazing. And then the last one is shapeshifter. I'm trying to do these as fast as possible. Last one is shapeshifter, which means that you can be turned on by all of the everything. You're just like, yeah, all of that. If you heard yourself in every single part of what I just said, you're like, oh yeah, that. Oh yeah, that. Oh yeah, that. You might be shapeshifter. You might be a shapeshifter. And the superpower of the shapeshifter is that you're probably like an amazing lover because you really are the chameleon of the erotic like community, so to speak. And you really can like mold and shift and shape because you're like, oh yeah, I'm into that. Oh yeah, I'm totally into that. Oh yeah, you want me to do that? Absolutely. Let's go. But the shadow side of the shapeshifter is that you are probably starving. Like you are probably like starving all the time, like erotically starving, because it's hard to be satiated when you're kind of like always a yes, always a yes, always a yes, right? And the phrase that might really get you is I think I'm too much. I'm too much. Or things that you might have heard from lovers in the past could be you are too much. I can't keep up with you. This is too much for me. I can't do this. Right. And so that might be a little bit of a hurt and a wound for shapeshifters. So okay, I'm gonna pause there. Because we haven't even gotten into like how do you deal with when one person is one thing and one person is the other thing, which I would totally love to get to. But I don't know if y'all have extra time.
We have a little bit of extra time, but okay. I know that like we're just scratching the surface, right? Like hopefully what you're hearing so far from Elizabeth is totally piquing your interest about this, and you're starting to see like how deep you can dive. So what I would love to know is like, in your experience, Elizabeth, what has been so important and impactful for couples about figuring this out? Like, why is this such a game changer in their sexual, intimate, erotic relationship to have this understanding?
Yeah, so a lot of people are familiar with attachment theory. And
Mm,
so, one of the reasons why it's important to know someone's attachment style is because it's good information and it's how you can now navigate with through that relationship, knowing that information, because now you know something about your partner's needs and you
mhm,
know something about your partner's like history or etc. So,
mhm,
same thing with knowing people's erotic blueprints as well, is that now you have a language that you're both speaking
Mhm.
because we're not given a language around sex and eroticism. We're not supposed to
no, we're
talk
not.
about it.
Yeah.
And number two is that now you have like, you have a manual. Now have a manual for your partner. You're like,
Mhm,
oh, I was treating them like they were the sexual blueprint when they're actually the sensual blueprint, right? Like I've been
mhm,
treating this relationship, I've been trying to come at this person like they're ready for sex at any moment when actually like they really need to be romanced. They need to like have things be built up for them. They need all the sights, tastes, smells, all of it.
mhm,
And like if I do that, then we can have this amazing like sexy time.
mhm,
Mhm.
mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that makes so much sense, and we see that too, like, in the work that we do with couples, how transformational it is just to have, like, a framework
Shared language.
and a shared language to, like, understand
Absolutely.
what's going on and know the
Yeah.
map to get to where you wanna go.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Right? And like you're right that we don't have much of a map or language where sex is concerned because we've only been given this one like very very bland map of how it's supposed to be and we think it's supposed to be the same
Mhm.
for everybody.
Mhm.
And then we're trying to map ourselves and our partners onto it when that may not be a fit.
Yeah,
But
absolutely. I've totally seen these like absolutely change and transform and even save
believe
relationships
it.
because it's just like, people come in and they're just like, I don't even know what to do. Like I don't even know. And you've also probably caused like some hurt between the
Mhm.
two of you in the process
Sure.
of trying to figure this out as well.
Mhm.
Mhm.
So this work can also be really healing too.
Mhm. Oh, I 100% believe it. You know,
Mhm.
there I
Mhm.
read a research study once that found that when sex is good in your relationship, you rate it at something like 25% of your satisfaction. But when sex is not working in your relationship, you rate it as like 75% of your satisfaction in the relationship. Right? So like when it's not good in our relationships, it feels that much more important.
Right.
Um and a lot of the people that we work with, like sex and intimacy is one of those parts that is struggling.
Yep.
And there's this myth that we think that we need, like, if we can fix the other parts of our relationship, sex and intimacy, like pleasure and eroticism, that's just going to automatically follow because we're doing
Mm.
well. But the truth is that, like, we need to actually bring attention, specific attention
Mhm.
to these aspects of our relationship because we have different like programming, different fears, different hangups, different beliefs about how it's supposed to be
And
that
desires.
and different desires that like are separate from whether or not we feel safe and satisfied in our relationship otherwise.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Right? So this is like a very specific piece of our relationship health that needs attention.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
But I
Yeah.
do want to ask because
Mm.
now I'm curious. And I know I'm taking over, so please jump in if you
No,
want to
that's
take up some
fine.
space. But um, I wish we had hours and days, Elizabeth. I'm just like, tell me all the things. I will wake you up at 3 a.m. and ask you to talk to me about eroticism.
4:30.
4:30 in the morning. That's when I'm getting up these days.
Oh my
Um,
god.
but that said, no, I'd like, one of the things that we often run into in our work with couples is this resistance to doing something that is like unfamiliar or not part of our preferred way of being. Right? Like love languages, for example. In my love language is words of affirmation, and that is not Cal's love language. So, like, he knows that he could, love me up with lots of words, but it's hard for him. Like, that's just
Mhm.
not how he operates and how he functions. And I imagine that that might be a barrier sometimes too, where it comes to erotic
Mm.
blueprints. When one partner's
Mm.
erotic blueprint, like like they don't quite get, I mean, they understand, they have the language for it, but then how do I give that to my partner? When I'm like starving and ready to go, but my partner needs this like slow, romantic, sensual experience. Like how do you move through the resistance and not just be in frustration that your partner can't just be like you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right? Yes.
Yeah, well, and that's honestly that's one of the reasons why I use more of like a holistic approach, like
Mhm.
with my clients, is that, I'm more of a relationship coach, right?
Yeah.
And not just like a sex and eroticism coach, because you're absolutely right. Like there are things that you would need to work through and address, like trust issues in the relationship if someone has lied in the past, or if someone has a traumatic history around like sex, then that might need to be addressed as well. You're right. Like there's a lot of different reasons why people would have a hard time with this. And I mean, for the purposes of this talk, I think the best way to answer that question is to be patient, to go slow, and to get really curious about everything and to take on everything as information. Like instead of taking on what your partner is doing or isn't doing as some sort of like failing of yourself or failing of them or failing of the relationship, like take out the morality of that and
Right.
actually just be like, okay, this is information. And if I'm really committed to having a healthy relationship with this person, this is really good information. This is information that's very helpful. It's very helpful to hear where they're at right now, where their barriers are, what's difficult for them, and vice versa. Both people taking on like, this is actually really good information to know about each other, instead of seeing it as like this is too much, or like how the heck are we going to do this, or like everything's wrong, or just like take all of the drama out of it. And as easier said than done, but like just be like, okay, what I know about this, about me and my partner, and like where we're at in eroticism, is that we've been having a very difficult time. These are the feelings that I'm experiencing about that. Okay, that's good information. What are the feelings that they're experiencing about that? And how much of that am I assuming, or how much of that can I actually get curious about and ask them, what is your experience right now? And extending that empathy and that listening to them, because honestly, and I know that both of you know this, but honestly, like just that, like just extending that listening and understanding and empathy and curiosity with that person is going to create so much safety, and safety is the foundation for pleasure,
Yes.
right? And then pleasure then creates intrigue and curiosity, which creates eroticism. And eroticism creates curiosity and intrigue that can lead to sex, whatever sex might look like for you. So it really does start with that like connecting point of safety, understanding, empathy, curiosity. Nothing's wrong here. We're on the same team. We're here for the same purpose, sort of attitude.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. It's so much of like just deciding to be that team and really work together in loving collaboration, right? Not in judgment of how things should be or the frustration of how you want them to be, but like let go of all of that and just see it as information, get curious about it, and work together around what you both want to create and how that can look.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when people get really good at doing this, can you help us just like understand, paint the picture? Like what are the possibilities?
Oh my God. So much. So much is possible. Oh my God. Okay.
I know, this is my favorite question.
examples. I literally, this is why I love what I do, okay? Because like I get text messages from clients that are like, oh my God, this date went so well. Or me and my partner have been having XYZ. I know what troubles they're having. So they don't say that in the text message, but they're like, I know everything that they've been going through. And they're like, this is what just happened last night. Just like this whole erotic experience. And just like, oh my God. Oh my God, so much as possible. Okay, how do I want to give a clear, solid example. And I think the best example that I have is that when you are able to fully um like give and receive each other's like needs, erotic needs, are and like know how they want to be touched and know how they don't want to be touched. And when you explore different types of touch, this part is really, really important. When you explore different types of touch inside of these different erotic blueprints, when someone is touched the way that feeds them, people will cry, people will like lose their breath, people will like gasp, or like, and not in like, you know, we if you've had sex, like, you know, that people make noises and sounds and like pleasure and blah blah blah. But people, and this is what they'll say, they will say, I have never felt so seen. I don't even know a different way to describe it. I have never felt so seen. Like when you touch someone in a way that like fully feeds their body, your soul feels seen. Your spirit feels seen. You feel seen. And it is such a profound experience. And it's also such a profound experience to give that to someone, to give that to your lover, to give that to your partner, to give that to someone as well. And it is probably, I don't even know. I, what's better than that? You know, like what else are we here to do? You know?
Basically.
And it isn't, and it's not necessarily like, I've had this happen with people when it's been in a platonic situation and we're just experimenting with different touch. I've had this happen in like more like non-sexual, like there's no intent for like having sex necessarily, but it's more just like erotic play or like experimentation. So it's, again, it's not even about the sex. It really is about like allowing for the way that our body likes to receive be given, either by ourselves or letting other people give that to us. It's just, it is probably one of the most profound human experiences that I think that we can have.
I believe it. And like, and how, I can't even think of the adjective, but just incredible to experience that in partnership. Right? Like I can just imagine the depths of intimacy and closeness that you start to create when you can really share this with one another.
Yeah. It's depth, it's intimacy, it's closeness, and it's also almost like this like little shared secret that you guys have too, that you have together, because it's like when other couples talk about, or like with other people and they're like talking about sex, and like you can just like look over at your partner and like know the types of like erotic experiences you've had with this person, and you're just like, yeah, we're fucking awesome. Like maybe that's a little bit of my energetic coming out, just being like, I am amazing. That's correct. My energetic shadow is showing.
Own it. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know how anybody watching this doesn't want to know more. because as you said, like, what else are we here for? Like, who doesn't want to be seen this way? Who doesn't want to experience such a like
regularly.
a profound spiritual intimate connection with your partner or partners, and with yourself, within yourself, right? To take, because I think that's the dream, right? Where sex and intimacy and pleasure and eroticism is concerned. Like, that's the fantasy of having something that's just so delicious, so like out of body, so mind-blowing that your world changes because of it, right? And we think that's just like how it's supposed to be, kind of automatically. And the journey to get there is one of so much like healing and growth and exploration and connectivity and surrender and all kinds of things, right? But to have a roadmap to get there faster through these erotic blueprints, to be more effective, to get more on point, to have a language to communicate where you're at and what you need, and to know, like, without mystery, what your partner wants and needs, and what's actually going to work better for them.
Exactly. How to show up and actually execute on that.
Yeah, I mean, like, that's that like is so so provocative, like so wonderfully alluring. So tell us, like, where do people get more information about their erotic blueprint, and also how do people learn about what you have to offer? What do you have to offer? How do they work with you if they want to go deeper into this?
Yeah, so if you want to take the erotic blueprint, well, actually, here are the steps. I'll give you steps. 1, 2, 3. Go to my profile, click on my Linktree link. If you want to read more about me, my website is there. But if you just want to book a call with me, then you can book a free call, so that we can talk about what it is that you're dealing with and how you'd like it to be going. And then I will give you what I think is the best option for you. And I promise you that if the best option is not me, I will say that too. Like, if we're not a fit, if we're not a fit to work together, I will let you know. And maybe I'll send you to Dr. Ginny and Cal, because they're amazing. If they're a better fit. And so go to my Linktree link, click on the discovery call that's on there, and then I will send you, and you'll fill out a questionnaire before our call, just so I know a little bit of background information about you. But if you put on there that you want to know your erotic blueprint, then I'll send you the link that you need to do that. So link in profile, discovery call, and then when you book the discovery call, ask about the erotic blueprint. I will send it to you.
Perfect. I love that. And will you make sure to put your link to your profile in the chat, just in case anybody feels, or in the comments after the live stream is done?
Yeah, follow up with
that is a great question.
We can do it after.
Okay. I was gonna say I could pull it up real quick.
Okay. Is it just your Facebook profile that they can get to your Linktree?
No link.
I don't know what a Linktree is. Is it Insta thing?
Insta. Yeah.
It's an Insta.
No,
thing.
it's like a
technology. I'm just getting comfortable with Facebook, y'all.
What Linktree is a link like thing where you can just put it in your because with Instagram you can only have one link attached to your profile. And so if you have a Linktree, then you can have more than one link in your profile, because it's just the Linktree, and then you can link anything that you want to it. Okay.
There might be other people out there who are like, Linktree, where, what? I just
Boom.
want people to know how to, we're like talking blueprints. Let's give them the roadmap to set up for success.
Yeah.
Getting to Elizabeth.
Yeah.
Yeah, but when she says
All
profile,
good.
it's on
It's on Insta. Okay.
Oh, are you guys on Facebook right now? Is that
We're streaming to Facebook, Insta, and YouTube.
Oh, got it. I'm just streaming on Instagram, so therein lies the confusion. Got
See?
that.
Yeah. That's
Communication and clarification goes a long way. Don't be afraid to ask questions, even if your partner looks at you like you're weird.
I was
Yeah.
sorry. I
It's
didn't mean
okay.
for that to be a thing. My apologies.
No, I love you. Okay. We have kept you and our audience extra long, but it has been worth every single minute.
For real.
Thank you so much, Elizabeth. I wish that we had so much more time to get into all of this because I know that we're just
Yeah, right.
just getting a little
We
bit
could do
of
a
what's
six-part on this.
feel like there's like some kind of
Mhm.
sexual pun I need to make right here.
Well,
Like insert sexual pun. It's like teasing. This is a teaser. That's where I was
Ooh, a
trying to
teaser.
go, right? Like this is just a little
Yeah.
tease about what's possible. And now everybody's like, I want more, give me more. At least that's how I'm feeling. But
yeah.
Yeah,
But
and we
thank
didn't
you,
even
thank
get to
you, thank
y'all
you.
either. Like, well, we'll get to it another
Yes.
time.
All right. Well, let us know if you have any questions. You could reach out in the comments in the chat. And hopefully we will get to see and hear more from Elizabeth and in our futures.
Yeah.
Because she's amazing.
Thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me. Thank you so much. I was so excited when y'all reached out to me. Thank you so much for putting this together. This is an amazing resource for people, and I hope that everyone is like checking it out because it's really cool.
Yeah. Thank you. Us too.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
All right.
All right, loves.